A female mayfly of the species Dolania americana lives for 5 minutes. Not 5 minutes as a figure of speech. 5 actual minutes. She emerges from the water, fully formed, already carrying thousands of eggs. She has no mouth, no digestive system, no way to eat, drink, or sustain herself. Her entire adult existence is a countdown that begins the instant she leaves the surface. She deposits her eggs, and then she dies. Somewhere in the deep Arctic, a Greenland shark is cruising through near-freezing water at the speed of a slow walk. It was born before the French Revolution. It won't reach sexual maturity for another few decades. It's only 150 years old. It might live to 500. Same planet, same set of biological rules. A 5-minute life and a 5-century life, separated by nothing but evolution's answer to one question. How long does this creature need to live to pass on its genes? That question produced the most extreme spectrum in all of biology. And at one end of it, something has opted out of dying altogether. To understand why lifespans vary so wildly, you need to understand one uncomfortable truth. Evolution doesn't care about longevity. It cares about reproduction. An organism that breeds successfully at 1 day old and dies at 2 has served evolution's purpose just as well as one that breeds at 50 and dies at 200. Lifespan isn't a goal, it's a byproduct. The mayfly is the purest expression of this logic. Its adult phase isn't really a life stage, it's a reproductive delivery system. The actual living happens underwater as a nymph for up to 2 years. During that time, the mayfly feeds, grows, molts and stores every calorie it will ever need. Then it sprouts wings, flies into the air, and burns through those reserves in a single explosive act of reproduction. One researcher described finding a female mayfly so packed with eggs that they had filled her entire body cavity, including the inside of her head. There was no room left for anything else. Her body wasn't a body anymore. It was a container. Gastrotrix take a different approach to brevity. These microscopic aquatic worms live for roughly 3 to 10 days. They're born as fully formed miniature adults. No larval stage, no childhood. They reproduce through parthenogenesis, cloning themselves without needing a mate, and die before most organisms have finished their first growth cycle. An entire generation lives, reproduces, and vanishes in less time than it takes you to finish a course of antibiotics. The turquoise killifish of Mozambique holds the record for the shortest-lived vertebrate that scientists use for aging research. It matures in 2 weeks and dies within 3 to 7 months. Its habitat, seasonal pools that fill during the rainy season and evaporate completely during the dry, dictates the pace. If you can't complete your life cycle before the puddle disappears, your genes disappear with it. Speed isn't an advantage, it's a requirement. Then the spectrum starts stretching in the other direction, and it stretches far. Humans are an interesting midpoint. For most of our species' history, average life expectancy hovered around 30 to 35 years. Not because people couldn't live longer, but because infant mortality, infection and violence killed most people young. The ones who survived childhood could reach 60 or 70 even in ancient times. What changed wasn't human biology. It was sanitation, medicine and food security. We didn't evolve longer lives. We engineered them. But some animals didn't need engineering. They just evolved to last. The Galapagos giant tortoise routinely lives past 100. The oldest verified individual, a tortoise named Jonathan, living on the island of St. Helena, was confirmed to be over 190 years old. Tortoises achieve this through a metabolic strategy that is essentially the opposite of the mayflies. They grow slowly. They reproduce slowly. They move slowly. Everything about their biology is calibrated to conserve energy over decades rather than spend it in minutes. Bowhead whales push further. These Arctic mammals can live over 200 years, making them the longest-lived mammals on Earth. Scientists confirmed this by finding stone harpoon points embedded in living whales. harpoon tips from weapons that hadn't been manufactured since the mid-1800s. The whales had been carrying human artifacts inside their bodies for over a century and hadn't bothered to die. But the true longevity champions aren't mammals. They're cold, slow, and ancient in ways that make human lifespans look like rounding errors. The ocean quahog is a clam, an unremarkable bivalve that lives buried in the sediment of the North Atlantic. Scientists determine its age by counting growth rings on its shell, 1 ring per year, like a tree. In 2006, researchers dredged a quahog off the coast of Iceland and counted the rings, 507 years. They named it Ming because it was born in 1499 during the Ming dynasty. This clam had been alive when Columbus was still making voyages. It survived the entire Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution, 2 world wars, and the invention of the Internet, and then the scientists killed it. Opening the shell to count the rings more accurately destroyed the animal. The oldest individual creature ever recorded was accidentally killed by the researchers studying it. The irony writes itself. The Greenland shark makes Ming look moderate, at least in potential. These Arctic sharks grow less than 1 centimeter per year. They swim at roughly 1.2 kilometers per hour, barely faster than a human walks. Their metabolism, as one biologist described it, operates just above a rock. Radiocarbon dating of proteins in their eye lenses, a tissue that forms at birth and never regenerates, revealed specimens estimated at 400 years old, with margins of error suggesting some could be over 500. A Greenland shark, alive today, could have been born while Shakespeare was writing Hamlet. And here's the detail that reframes everything about how we think of aging. These sharks don't reach sexual maturity until they're approximately 150 years old, a century and a half before they're ready to breed. By that age, a human lineage would span 5 or 6 generations. The shark hasn't even started. Their genome, sequenced in 2024, revealed something that surprised geneticists. Greenland sharks have 6.5 billion base pairs, twice the length of the human genome, with unusually high numbers of duplicate genes. Many of those duplicates are involved in DNA repair. The shark's genome appears to be built with redundant error correction systems, like a biological backup drive that keeps overwriting the damage that aging inflicts on every other vertebrate. But even 500 years has an endpoint. There is one creature that, at least in theory, doesn't. The immortal jellyfish, Turritopsis dohrnii, is smaller than a fingernail. It lives in temperate and tropical oceans worldwide, and when it's injured, starving, or simply aging, it does something that no other animal can do. It reverts to its juvenile form. Through a process called transdifferentiation, the adult jellyfish's specialized cells transform back into unspecialized cells, effectively rewinding the organism to its polyp stage, the biological equivalent of a butterfly dissolving back into a caterpillar. From the polyp, it grows into a mature jellyfish again, and when it ages or gets damaged again, it resets, again and again. It doesn't age in the way every other complex animal ages. It cycles. In laboratory conditions, researchers have watched individual specimens revert multiple times without any apparent limit. The cells don't degrade. They reload. Now, immortal is a generous word. In the wild, Turritopsis dohrnii gets eaten by predators, killed by disease, and destroyed by environmental changes constantly. Biological immortality doesn't mean invulnerability. It means the organism has no built-in expiration date. Death comes from the outside, never from the inside. The clock that ticks in every mayfly, every tortoise, every human, every shark, that clock doesn't exist in this jellyfish. Scientists are studying transdifferentiation intensely, not because they want to build an immortal human, but because understanding how cells revert without becoming cancerous could revolutionize stem cell therapy, organ regeneration, and age-related disease treatment. The jellyfish isn't just a curiosity, It's a research subject that could reshape medicine. And beyond animals entirely, the timescale keeps expanding. A Great Basin bristlecone pine in California's White Mountains has been alive for 4,857 years, measured by ring count, not estimation. It was a seedling when the Egyptian pyramids were under construction. Deep-sea black coral colonies have been dated at over 4,000 years. A clonal colony of quaking aspen in Utah, a single root system producing genetically identical trees, is estimated to be 80,000 years old. If you accept clonal organisms, life hasn't just extended its lifespan, it's made individual death irrelevant. 5 minutes, 500 years, functionally forever. The mayfly emerged, laid eggs, and died before you finished reading this paragraph. The Greenland shark that was swimming when the Renaissance began is still swimming. The jellyfish that should have aged out of existence years ago just reset its cells and started over. Aging isn't a law of physics, it's a biological strategy, one that evolution has adjusted, extended, compressed, and, in at least one case, deleted entirely. The question isn't why some animals die so quickly. It's why any animal dies at all when at least one has already figured out how not to. And that question is no longer purely academic. Scientists are studying the shark's genome, the jellyfish's cells, and the bristlecone's chemistry right now, looking for the mechanisms that made longevity possible and asking whether any of them could work in us. The answer might be hiding inside a jellyfish smaller than your thumbnail. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more.